Ever heard of pieces and never knew how to differentiate between whether it's a classical or romantic period piece? Hello everyone, today we will be comparing between the classical period and the romantic period.
The classical period began around 1750s after the Baroque era and lasted until the 1820s, leading into the romantic period which ended around 1900s. Though similar, both periods actually have distinct differences.
In the middle of the 18th century, Europe began to move toward a new style in architecture, literature, and the arts, generally known as Neoclassicism. This style sought to emulate the ideas of classical antiquity, especially those of classical Greece. Now, I'm going to talk about the music elements of classical period. Let's talk about the texture of classical pieces. The pieces usually begin homophonically, then change to polyphonic. Harmony has diatonic for clear sound, using the only notes belonging to a specific key. The dynamics gradually changes from crescendo to decrescendo. Melody is the most tuneful and easiest to remember.
There are two similar phrases with the same length. The second phrase ends more exclusively.
Form as symphony, concerto, rondo, theme, and variation. Expression changes in mood may occur gradually or suddenly, but are always firmly controlled. The rhythm has a steady and clear tempo, regular, simple metrical patterns, often 2/4 or 3/4. Instrument building improve equals the range of dynamic.
Next, I will be introducing the Romantic period. This period was a complete opposite of the previous one, a rebellion against neoclassicism and emphasized on emotion, individualism, and imagination. Composers expressed personal feelings and reflected the social realities of their time. Romantic music often shifts from homophonic to polyphonic textures, especially in emotional parts. The harmony has become more expressive and chromatic, adding colors and tension. Dynamic changes unexpectedly, from very soft to very loud, creating contrast. The melodies were expressive and lyrical, conveying deep emotions. Other than that, the forms and expressions were freer and more expressive, showing emotion and passion. Composers used tempo changes and rubato to make the music unpredictable. Orchestras grew larger, rich and powerful, with new instruments like the saxophone creating emotional and colorful sounds.
The comparison between Romantic and Classical period. In short, Classical period music was more objective, focusing on balance and a clear structure. On the other hand, Romantic period music was more subjective, with emotion and expression. Now let's look at the similarities between the two periods. First, both periods used similar instruments like violins, flute, and many more. Second, national elements were often included in their music, like folk melodies and national dances. Third, both styles aim to convey emotions, just in different ways. And lastly, they share a similar approach to melody and harmony, even though Romantic music was more expressive and more emotion. The Romantic period had a larger orchestra, while the Classical orchestra was smaller and simpler. Romantic period has up to 120 performers, while Classical is just 30. The Classical period focused on balance and symmetrical features, while the Romantic period focuses on freedom and innovation, giving composers more room to express their feeling and experiment with sound.
For our analysis, we have analyzed Feuilleries for classical period and Pas de deux for romantic period. It is worth mentioning that Feuilleries has little hints of romantic expression. The texture for Feuilleries is mostly homophonic. For Pas de deux, it starts off monophonic, then homophonic, with the harp accompanying the main melody played by the strings.
On this slide, I'll be explaining the harmony in Feuilleries and Pas de deux. First, let's look at Feuilleries by Beethoven. The piece is written in A minor, which gives it a slightly sad and emotional feeling. It uses diatonic harmony, meaning the notes and chords stay strictly within the A minor key. The primary chords used are tonic, the first, subdominant, the fourth, and dominant, the fifth. This kind of harmony is simple and balanced, which is a very typical of the classical period. Now moving on to Pas de deux. This piece is in G major. Unlike full Elise, it uses chromatic harmony, which means it just doesn't stick to the G major scale. It adds accidentals like G sharp, A sharp, and C sharp. This makes the music more expressive, colorful, and emotional.
The dynamics for Für Elise is moderate, gradually getting louder but not drastically. Whereas for Pas de Deux, it changes unexpectedly. It starts off soft, then reaches a fortissimo section for dramatic effect.
The melody in Für Elise is simpler and memorable, with two similar phrases. If we listen to the first phrase, the second phrase ends more conclusively. In Pas de Deux, the melody is long, dramatic, and emotional. Für Elise uses rondo form, A-B-A-C-A phrases, whereas Pas de Deux has a classical ballet structure with adagio, variation, and coda. The expression of Für Elise moves from a sad and nostalgic to bright and lively. In Pas de Deux, the music feels passionate, elegant, and majestic, almost fairy tale-like.
The rhythm for Für Elise is 3/8. It is compound triple time. In addition, Pas de Deux rhythm is classical with a waltz tempo 3/4 simple triple time. It has a graceful flow. It has a consistent melodic and rhythmic framework structured for ballet dancers.
On this slide, I'll be explaining the instrumentation used in Für Elise and Pas de Deux. First, let's look at Für Elise. The main melody is played by the piano, which gives the piece a light sound. It's then accompanied by an orchestra. Next, for Pas de Deux, this piece is performed by a full orchestra. The instruments that are prominently heard include the harp, cymbals, violins, clarinets, and trumpet. Compared to Für Elise, the romantic orchestra is much more colorful and more expressive.
Personal reflection. I personally prefer romantic period pieces like Pas de Deux because they are more emotional with its large and colorful orchestra. Classical feels lifeless, but romantic pieces feel like there's a story to tell, no matter exciting, depressing, anger, or tranquility.
I prefer the romantic period because the music expresses deeper emotions and tells a story that connects with the listener. The dynamics feels alive with its full and strong orchestral. Unlike the classical period, romantic feels more personal, which makes it more enjoyable for me.
I prefer the classical period because the music is balanced, clear, and elegant. I like the Für Elise because the melody is easier to remember and catchy.
When I listen to classical period music, it is more often to hear one clear melody and all of the other parts of the textures are providing harmonic and rhythmic accompaniment. On the other hand, romantic period music has a consistent rhythmic and melodic framework for musicians to play in big ballrooms for weddings.
Thank you.